Welcome in Capital News tonight. The High Court of Tanzania sentences 3 to death by hanging. Sudanese nationals living in Kenya and activists hold protests in Nairobi. National basketball team begins training. And in Capital, good evening. This is Capital News at 9:30. My name is Vanessa Victor. Let's get started with the national news. The High Court of Tanzania sentenced 3 people in Kagera region to a punishment of death by hanging after they were found guilty of savagely slitting the throats of 4 people who used to be residents of Kashenge village on November 1st of 2015. Kashenge village is located in Katoma ward, which is part of Bukoba district municipal.
The sentence was given by the presiding judge, Lamek Michael Mlacha, and the accused, who were arrested and then taken to court under tight security, are Ngesela Joseph, Rashid Mzee Athumani, and Aliyu Dauda Hassan. In addition, the victims who were savagely murdered were Kaijage John, Anastella Pascal, Emmanuel Joseph, and Alois Reyemamu. The state's chief prosecutor, Hashim Ngole, revealed his satisfaction with the punishment which was given to the accused. For his part, a lawyer for the defense, Matthias Reyemamu, said that he intends to appeal against the verdict. Some of the residents of Kagera region praised the punishment which had been meted out.
The sentence given by Honorable Judge is well received because the crime committed caused fear in Bukoba, but it had potential to cause panic in the whole country. The judge has allowed the accused to seek an appeal. We are not in agreement with the ruling, and as a leader of the defense team, I shall appeal. Justice has been served. This sort of crime brought shame to Kagera region. I commend the police force for a job well done.
And the Parliament has continued with the debate for the 2019-2020 budget, with a large number of MPs commending the Ministry of Finance and Planning for reducing the taxes for small-scale entrepreneurs to enable them to pay on time without evading taxes and to bring in revenue for the government.
Mr. Speaker, I would like to say that if you just look on the surface of the reduction of tax from 150,000 shillings to 100,000 shillings, then some people might be tempted to conclude that the government will collect less revenue due to the reduction of tax. However, I see things differently. In the past, small-scale traders had failed to pay tax regularly. But now that the tax has been reduced to 100,000 shillings, I feel that more small-scale traders will be able to pay tax consistently, which as a result will increase the amount of revenue collected by the government. Mr. Speaker, I feel that roads should be built in all areas of the country which are productive. In addition, I would like to say that we should try very hard to develop scientific innovation and creativity here in the country. Mr. Speaker, I would like to highlight your attention to a very serious matter which concerns Zanzibar's ability to take loans. A law was passed on that matter, which is a bad law because it is unfair against the interests of Zanzibaris. According to it, Mr. Speaker, the Serikali ya Mapinduzi of Tanzania, the SMT, can give loans to the Serikali ya Mapinduzi of Zanzibar, otherwise known as the SMZ, just as if the SMZ were just another state corporation or district council.
Mpaka muda huu haya mashirika hajatoa mgawio.
And the Inspector General of Police, IGP Simon Sears, directed officers to ensure that they continue to fulfill their duties fully and not to involve themselves in criminal acts, which include participating in theft of gold as well as economic sabotage.
Today we had a meeting with inspectors from headquarters to evaluate what we've achieved in the last 2 years. And on areas of failure, we also spoke about ethics in our job. I've stressed on the importance for the police force not to be a hindrance for business owners. We must instead support them. This is extremely important. You see, the salary we get is as a result of money paid in taxes. We've spoken about protecting our nation's resources such as minerals and the wildlife. As police officers, we must not be involved in the smuggling of minerals. If any officer is involved, you can no longer be a police officer. Community and police relation at the moment is good. The police has become more involved and this has significantly reduced crime. This would not have been the case if we were not working closely with the general public. Upinzani Institute ya Kwanza.
Shirikisha wananchi katika maeneo mbalimbali kama alivyosema afande IGP.
And Mumbili Orthopedic Institute Moyo started a special camp for specialists that will conduct surgery for children with hydrocephalus, where experts of the institute have volunteered their services free of charge.
Tumekuwa tukifanya operation nyingi, na kwa nini operation nyingi? Kwa sababu hao watoto,
we've done a lot of operations because these kids are very ill, so we don't want to delay the operation. And if we have large numbers, then we set up camp so we can operate in large numbers. Some of the challenges we face, one is they come when it's too late. Parents seek treatment late, which means we have to treat them first before we could operate. I would like parents to seek treatment earlier on from the very first day. They should not wait until the situation worsens and the child is disfigured. Another issue we are facing is parents fail to bring back the children for consultation, so we are not able to tell if the child died or he survived. I'm grateful to Moi and the doctors for all their help. I was confident that my child would be well taken care of.
Leaders from opposition parties in the country, including Freeman Boy from Chadema and Zito Kabwe from ACT Wazalendo, have delivered an emergency injunction at the East African Court of Justice to halt the exercise to improve voters' registration, which is expected to begin in Arusha and Kilimanjaro, on claims that it is illegal and hinders the rights of people to vote.
We've come today to hear provisional ruling from the East Africa Court of Justice. As you are aware, voters' registration records is being modified, particularly in Kilimanjaro and Arusha. Politicians at the moment are not allowed to sensitize their members and the general public without getting permission from political parties' registrar. The government has commenced this exercise on the 23rd for Kilimanjaro zone, but enough time has not been allocated to ask the registrar for permission, since 30 days notice must be given.
Asasi za kiraia,
Civil society bodies and religious institutions cannot tell voters to go and vote. We will take to the road to ask the people to go and register to vote. As our lawyers are seeking justice, we know Moshi and Kilimanjaro are key areas, so we will not allow justice to be denied.
Kuwanyima wananchi haki zao za kidemokrasia hatutaziheshimu.
Cholera patients in Dar es Salaam have reached 130, with the big cause mentioned to be residents allowing dirty water to flow out. This was revealed in Dar es Salaam by the Chief Medical Officer of Dar es Salaam, Dr. Yunus Ndungile, where he revealed that residents tend to disregard education provided on how to avoid cholera.
Tunaomba waendelee kuzingatia
They must take caution and participate in activities to keep the environment clean, as well as on days set aside during the week to clean up our areas. On Saturday for Dar es Salaam, we cannot simply sensitize people every day, but they must understand that it is their responsibility to keep clean their work areas, but also on how they dispose of sewage water. If we manage this area well, I'm sure diseases such as malaria and others will be normal. I don't think that enough knowledge has been given regarding this matter on how to control cholera. People must make hygiene our priority.
And the United Nations Resident Coordinator in Tanzania, Alvaro Rodriguez, has said that there is a need for the government and various organizations to unite so as to stop incidents of violence towards women and children that have continued to take place throughout the country.
Against women and children is not something that is only happening in Kigoma or in Tanzania. It's something that it happens globally in developed countries as well as in developing countries. So we very much appreciate having met the colleagues from Kibedea, from the different institutions and the police in particular, who are taking a leadership role in this, both in preventing abuse and in responding to abuse when it happens. And the United Nations remains committed to supporting the Kigoma region, this district and all other districts to address this terrible situation.
I would like to ask men, if there is any kind of mistreatment, they should not hesitate to come forward. Men do get mistreated too and must not be ignored. I would like to express my gratitude to United Nations Women for providing the means to build an office where domestic abuse can be reported in Kigoma, so as to encourage those abused to get help needed.
That's where we end off with national news. International news is next. And in international news, with the leadership conflict ongoing in Sudan for 2 months since former President Omar al-Bashir was removed from office, Sudanese nationals living in Kenya, many of whom are refugees as well as activists, have held protests in Nairobi to ask the international community to step in and help bring peace in Sudan.
We are calling on the government of Kenya to take measures in condemning what is happening in Sudan, including brutal killings. Bashir was overthrown from leading the country, but honestly, with the militia ruling, nothing has changed. Things are still the same.
A group of MPs from the east of Uganda have threatened to submit a request for the review of the murder case in the ICC court against President Yoweri Museveni and commanders of the Uganda Police Defense Forces following attacks in the 2015 against Rwenzururu Palace that led to the death of 103 people in Kasese district.
We're also aware that a government is insisting on criminalizing him even after the court has ruled on allowing him to visit his house in Kasese. He has remained under tight security, which is an illegal move.
The elderly, women and youth in Butembo, Beni and Lubero volunteered to educate the public on Ebola, as it is a significant threat to the lives of
As As leaders, we are collaborating with government in fighting Ebola virus in Beni, Butembo, Mombasa, and Irimu. We are aiming at reaching people in every corner of this country, even the military force, as well as condemning attacks towards health attendants.
Kulaani vitendo vya kushambulia wale ambao wanaleta uponyaji.
So we turn to Germany, where the whole country is fixated on a murder case. A politician is dead and a suspect is in custody. Investigators believe that the alleged shooter may have had a political motive and a neo-Nazi past. For more on this case and Germany's struggle with far-right extremism, we're joined by our political correspondent with our Deutsche Welle partner in Berlin. William, can you tell us more about this murder?
It's quite a big case happening and unfolding here in Germany. The victim is Walter Lübcke. He was a regional council president in the Western German area. He is part of Angela Merkel's, or was part of Angela Merkel's ruling CDU party, a supporter of Angela Merkel and a strong supporter of her migration policies. He was found shot dead, a gunshot wound, close-range gunshot wound to his head on his lawn outside of his house in his hometown on June 2nd. There was a lot of speculation swirling around as to what could have happened. Even suicide was considered at first as a possible cause of death. Although it looked ever more likely to have been a murder, the question was, what was the motive and why was he murdered? Over the weekend, we saw an arrest of a 45-year-old man being called Stefan E. In Germany, we don't reveal the full last names of suspects to protect their privacy and their presumed innocence. The police said they were led to him by DNA evidence at the crime scene. And what was already reported in German media here was then later confirmed by federal prosecutors doing the investigation of this case, that he does indeed have a criminal background, that he did indeed have links to far-right and neo-Nazi groups. Whether any of that was active anymore, whether he has a political motive in this case, if he is found to be guilty of this crime, that is what investigators are looking at right now.
So did this arrest on the weekend turn this whole situation into a bigger political story? And what is the latest from investigators and the Interior Ministry?
Of course, political murders do not happen very often. The last ones here in Germany were in the 1970s. So it's really taken the nation by surprise. And Germans are asking themselves, what is going on here? What is this far-right activity that we're seeing, this extreme far-right activity that is now being seen as part of a bigger picture of extreme far-right violence and far-right crime? Frank-Walter Steinmeier, the German president, already spoke out very harshly about online verbal abuse by the far-right against people who might be pro-immigrant or pro-refugee or minority groups themselves, criticizing that this leads to a culture of violence, a culture of making it okay to use violence to see your far-right ends carried out. So this is part of a larger situation. We had in the early 2000s a string of murders by what was known as the National Socialist Underground, a far-right terror cell that had murdered a series of people of non-German background. It took a very long time for that investigation to come to light. Police and intelligence services here in Germany were criticized for not doing enough to uncover that investigation, to see the links, to connect the dots about far-right activity. And although the current suspect, Stefanie, we're not hearing anything that he's saying anything to police, and so far he is the only person arrested and being looked at in this case. Investigators have said they are looking into the possibility of there being conspirators, co-conspirators, other supporters, a larger network that may so far be unseen. So the fear is that this is the tip of yet another iceberg of far-right extreme violence here in Germany that has really rattled the German political spectrum to its core.
As you've said, it does seem that Germany is having and has had a far-right problem. Is there anything that is being done to sort of address this?
Well, you could say that Germany's entire post-war existence, it serves to confront far-right violence. After its very painful Nazi past that led to World War II and the Holocaust, every aspect of German society, its politics, its education system, is all about countering far-right violence and far-right ideology. and yet we still see attacks on refugees, discrimination against minorities. We see, as I mentioned, this National Socialist underground string of murders. We see social protest movements of very extreme far-right protests called Pegida that are calling for, keeping migrants out, keeping minorities out, and essentially keeping Germany white and Christian. Despite all of the attention paid to Germany's history, its complicated history with the far right and extreme right-wing violence, we're seeing that Germany is still struggling with countering and stopping far-right violence from happening today in Germany, despite Germany becoming ever more diverse and ever more open and a place for immigrants. So that dichotomy is being quite a challenge and testing German society quite a bit today.
Thank you very much, William. For more on the investigation, we will be looking to see how everything develops. And that is all for international news. We'll be back with business news after this break.
Watch Business Edition as we talk to business leaders and experts in sectors that are transforming Tanzania's economy.
To be rich, I have to be a business person.
It's not an easy road at all.
People need to understand.
You must quickly think how cost effective are you going to be.
Business acts as a way in which it can bridge that gap.
Business Edition will keep you informed on latest developments in the financial sector, extractive industry, tourism, agriculture, energy, construction, and so much more. Meet entrepreneurs who create employment opportunities. Watch Business Edition on Friday at 8:15 p.m.
Welcome back, and in business news. The Secretary General of Tanzania Business Association, Abdallah Mwinyi, said that the government's move to remove 54 charges is a good one that will motivate development of business in the country.
I think we should stop estimating, because what happens right now is that estimation officer is the one in charge of how much the government should earn. It is not right. What we want is for the government to state clearly what it needs. Then the assistant tax officer will have to work on government demands.
Tanzania Bureau of Standards (TBS) has said that there have been substandard pipes transporting electricity wires, that it is making efforts to remove them.
These wires have poor quality in electrical resistance and electrical strength, to the point that whoever uses them in house wiring, it is possible for the house to have regular power cuts.
A few days after the official start of the season to spray pesticides in flowers of cashew nut harvest, farmers of the crop in Tandahimba district have complained on some of the distributors of agricultural inputs selling them fake and expired pesticides.
Farmers have been complaining that pesticides are not important. But we have discovered that there are pesticides imported from Mozambique, and others have been expired sold in the markets. We shall deal with all those involved in these incidents in court, because these pesticides are retarding good cashew nut farming in Tandahimba district. In order to help farmers of this district, it is important to carry out regular inspections in pesticide shops. These inspections are going to be sustainable in order to maintain supply of good quality of pesticides in the district.
And that's all for business news. Sports is next.
Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment and going away. Gay trying to go with him and he's being dragged through to second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Away first time, good start from Bolt. Bolt leading a moment and going away. Gay trying to go with him and he's being dragged through to second place, but he's going to win it by 2 meters. Opposition, Joaquinho, he did lose some length.
And in sports, the national basketball team has started training for the Zone 5 competition with 15 players reporting to camp.
The main thing needed is travel fare. We expect to leave by bus to Uganda due to our current budget. But if we get the plane tickets, it will be better as we will help our players to head there full of energy. We also need funds for accommodation in Uganda, as well as FIBA licenses, which need to be paid for. Those are the main things. But in other things, like facilities, a stakeholder can say, I will just help you with jerseys, and that is enough.
International Taifa Stars player Emily Mugeta, who plays for Germany's side VfB Appingen, says Taifa Stars will surprise many in this year's Africa Cup of Nations, which kicks on Friday in Egypt.
They've done a great job since the beginning until they qualified. In their preparation, I tried to make follow-up. They are proceeding well. I have faith in them that we will perform wonders and surprise a lot of people. It doesn't matter if we have players who have experience of big competitions.
Luis Enrique stepped down as coach of the Spanish national team for personal reasons, leaving his assistant Robert Moreno in charge until Euro 2020. Here is more.
Enrique abandoned the Spain get-together prior to the game against Malta on 26th of March, having been on the bench for the meeting with Norway, hurriedly leaving the squad and returning home to Barcelona. Since then, he has been unable to return to an active role with the national team, and in a statement on Wednesday, he said that he had decided to step down due to the reasons which have prevented him from fulfilling his duties as normal since last March. Those reasons have not been clarified, and the Spanish Football Federation requested that the coach's privacy continue to be respected.
And that sports item ends our news bulletin for tonight. On behalf of everyone who worked to bring you this bulletin, my name is Vanessa Victor. Thank you for watching and have a good night.
She will never
Sewage treatment is costly, and more often than not, sewage is disposed of without being treated. This week, turning the spotlight focuses on inner city sewage collection centers and how that affects the quality of life of local residents.
Kuna muda panatoa harufu kali mno kiasi kwamba majumba yaliyopo karibu haya hawawezi kukaa vyumbani mwao, hawawezi kukaa barazani mwao, hawawezi wakala.
Serikali ya mitaa pia walijitahidi wakatuletea watu kumwaga dawa chooni na kwenye madimbwi. Kidogo imetuia ni vizuri, lakini kwa sasa hivi tena kuna harufu ambayo imelipuka ghafla, na ukizingatia sasa hivi kuna huu ugonjwa wa dengue. Sasa hatujui hawa mbu labda wanaishi kwenye haya mabwawa au vipi.
Yale maji yakiingia yanakotoka yanakuja kwenye kiwango fulani cha ubora, ambayo sasa kupitia yale mabwawa yanatakiwa yawe yachakatwe mpaka yatoke na kiwango kingine cha ubora ambacho kinakubalika kuingizwa kwenye mto.
Don't miss it. This Thursday at 7 p.m. right here on Capital Television, your channel of choice.